Making Miles Prowler's belt from Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse. It lights up and glows in the dark. Here's how I did it. What is blazing Dragon Ninjas? Got a brand new heat for y'all today, and another addition to the Prowler series of builds. Well, to start, I only went into this project a bit blind. I didn't go with any distinct idea. I didn't draw it out. I only drew out the wiring, but in terms of actually executing the project, I didn't have a plan for it, so I went in blind, and my first idea wasn't too off. I cut out a decently long rectangle and realized when I folded it over that it's not the right size, and also the design is off. So I redid it and had more of an idea going into the next one. For the bigger back pocket, the dimensions are 6 inches in width and 13 inches in length. Once I'm set with my dimensions, I get to cutting it out, and then I fold it over to see how it looks. And now it's time to get to the side pieces. There's one tweak I make to design that changes the dimensions a little bit, but most of the dimensions stay the same. Here, the dimension is 3.5 inches. The top right here is 1 inch. The side length will be 3 inches since I do make ½ an inch cut at the edge right after. And the base is 2.5 inches with the cut. The previous base before was 3 inches, so you only have to cut off ½ an inch. Since I was guesstimating, the first cut I did happened to be a bit too much, so I reattached it and then cut off that ½ inch. Now I'll just duplicate that piece on another piece of foam and get ready to glue everything together. And I'll just clean up any rough edges, and that's the back pocket complete. And now I'll just use the heat gun to make any rough areas smooth. But to make this actual functional pocket, we're gonna have to make it close, and we're gonna use pencil to mark out the areas where we're gonna put the Velcro. Now, since these are going on a tactical or utility belt, the exact one I use I'll put in the description below, you're gonna have to make them attached to the pocket, so you're gonna have to give them some sort of a strap. I used hockey tape, but you don't have to. You can use any type of fabric or anything that you can make a loop out of, just to where it can slide into the belt. Depending on where you want to place the back pocket on the belt, depends on how big you want the loop to be. If it's not on the buckle, then it could be tighter, but if it's on the buckle, you want it to give it a lot of space so it can move around. Now for these new pockets I'm gonna make, is gonna be 13 inches in length and around 4 inches in width. I cut out these rectangles to be used as the side pieces for the pocket, and the dimensions are 3 inches by 1.5 inches. After completing the pocket, I realized that the top was a bit too long, so I realized I'm gonna have to snip off probably a couple centimeters. The cover of the pocket should end around a little bit under the midway of the pocket. Okay, I know that sounds quite confusing, but I'll just show you. So I simply look at my references and see that it ends about halfway of the pocket, and I slice it, which then leads to the circles. The circles on the belt were quite interesting. I had to do my own interpretation of what I thought they would look like from the references I had. So I cut out a ring shape inside of the circle. I was planning to partially hollow out the ring shape to fit the lights in, but I don't think it really matters. Also, might I add that all the EVA foam used so far is 5mm. I do change to 2mm, but I wouldn't advise that. You can maybe drop down to 3 or 4. 2mm is too delicate. Now that the ring's being hollowed out, we need to see if the light will fit. And for this, you'll simply just have to calculate the diameter of the ring and then the diameter of the light later. This is quite easy to do since the light is bendy and malleable. Now we're going to make a circle for the inner diameter of the ring. Now from the references I have, this should give the light a more blocked out appearance on certain angles. Now here's a quick look of what we should have done and what it should look like. Now before you get to snipping, you need to know that there's these certain copper pads that you have to cut alongside or the light will break. I have 19 copper pad strips, but you probably should too. Now here's a look of the light partially installed. I would say the outer circle I had a bit too small. I would make it a bit bigger. For the inner circle, you want it to be flush to where it's leveled with the light, meaning that you're gonna have to cut out a little bit of a notch to where the wiring protrudes. Once that's complete, you can now add the other circle on top, and that'll make it complete. So now merging the circle light with the actual pocket, first you gotta put some holes in the pocket. You can use a soldering iron for that. Then you put the wiring of the circle light through. Also, a key thing to know is that you have to put the wiring through the pocket before you solder on the next light. And if you follow this, it will be very, very easy. And these will be soldered on in a series that looks like this picture. And here you can clearly see that I have the wires going through the pocket before I install the actual circle light. And here's the look of the completed front pocket. The circle light should protrude a little bit down from the lip of the pocket. And as I've shown from my illustration, 2 of these wires will lead to the circle light and the other 2 wires will lead to the next pocket. Now here we can clearly see that the wiring gets really full, meaning that you're gonna have to cut out a pretty big hole. And now to install the second pocket's lights, I'm just gonna seal it with some black hot glue because that matches the color. Also install the circle lights as if the pocket was closed because you don't want it to end up looking like this.
That ain't it, y'all.
This isn't that big of an issue, but it's just kind of annoying because now once I fix it, both are complete. A very, and I mean very important thing you need to get are DC connectors. They're gonna test whether or not you actually have the wiring down correct before you finalize everything. To get these to work is very simple. For the female port, you'll just have to connect your obviously positive and negative wiring to the positive and negative ports. For the male one, I already had one that was connected to a power supply, like an outlet, but if you don't have one, you'll have to literally make your own. But don't fret, it's not that hard. It's actually very simple. We're already technically doing it. First, you're gonna get your 12-volt battery pack and you're gonna connect that to the male DC port, and that's it. Now here's a look on the side pockets. These pockets only have lighting going through the sides, and this is the one where I regretted using 2mm EVA foam. The button clip that's on the pocket is from the utility belt's pockets. That, for some reason, was quite a mouthful. Okay, now for the side pockets, side pieces, dimensions. For the top of the pocket, we got about 3 centimeters. And for this side length, we got about 7 centimeters. And for this side length, we got about 3 centimeters. And for this one, we got 9 centimeters. And for the bottom, we have 5 centimeters. As I've done previously, we're gonna put the wiring through first before we install the lights. And now I'm gonna use my MVP for welding, the helping hand, aka Rob.
Hey,
wait,
let me get on the
Rob,
mic.
you're trying to introduce yourself?
Yeah, let me get on the mic.
I mean, So I had a little bit of a light conundrum, so I actually used 2 different LED lights to go along the sides of these pockets. I ran out of these thin 5mm pink LED strips and I only had the white ones left, so I ended up just using the white ones but painting it pink over it. But I didn't like painting it pink the whole time, and also soldering it was very, very difficult, so I just got a different one. These ones right here, both of these lights will be in the description. And for the white light that I used, I make sure I'll send you the pink one instead. Now connecting the side pockets lights in series is very simple. You just gotta solder the bottom, and you're gonna have to make the light strip long enough to where you can fit it inside of the pocket at the bottom and solder it on there. You'll solder these lights when the whole flap of the pocket is down. All right, now moment of truth. Success! Let's go, it works. Now to move on. There's something I need to say about the wiring. It does vary because person to person, each waist is different, but for mine, I wouldn't say you need to teeter above anything larger than 20 centimeters if you're going from pocket to pocket. So 15 to 20 centimeters should be a range between each wire going to another pocket. Another key thing you should know is that if you're using the 3mm thin LED strip, then you should peel away the adhesive because the adhesive will stop the lead from bonding on. The adhesive is invisible, but once you peel away with it with like an X-Acto knife, you'll start to see it chunk away. And now it's time to add the lights to the back pocket. It's basically going to be the exact same thing as the side pockets, but this time the back pocket's going to hold the battery. So to start, we're going to cut away 3 or 5mm off the sides because that's where the lights will fit. Then of course you'll place your first light, and just so you know, I left about 5 copper pads. Then you have to puncture the holes at the back to prepare the wiring to go through. So now I'm going to use the help of my homie Rob again, and he's going to help me solder on the lights.
No.
And for soldering, you already know the drill. Flux on the light strip, then flux on the wires, then lead on light strip, and then lead on wires, and then solder them together, and that's it. And for this step, you can see my brain made a little mishap, brain freeze if you will. It wasn't too good. I wasn't thinking here. For some reason, I thought each wire had to connect all together in a full circle. I wasn't thinking. I thought it had to connect all together and then connect to the battery, and then that's the way everything will light, but that's not true. Well, I'm back in it again with another brain freeze. I thought this single coin battery can power up the whole thing, but obviously that didn't work. I only powered it up for like 5 seconds. So I switched to a 9-volt battery, and it worked! Success! But only for like 50 minutes. When I worked at a convention and also for a photo shoot, it would just turn off at about like 30 minutes in, and every time I tried to turn it on, it would just flash on for a second and then go off dimmily. I figured it might be a voltage problem, so I just ended up getting the 12-volt battery pack, and that worked fine. Okay, now to change this pocket from fashion to utility, we're gonna actually make it a pocket that closes. For the circle light pockets, we're gonna use Velcro, and we're gonna make it really easy to install by just getting 2 pieces of Velcro, putting them on each other, gluing both sides, and then installing it. And by now you should have all the straps in the back of your pockets. Just to help, here's a bird's eye view of all the wiring and how the wiring should look like for you. Putting the pockets on the belt shouldn't be hard to install. It's very easy. You're gonna start with the rightmost pocket, and slide that in first and move it all the way to the right, and from the wiring you should just move along from there. I used some more black hockey tape to hide some of the wiring, but the wiring shouldn't be too long. That was my mistake, so you shouldn't really have to deal with this issue. If you see many pictures of Prowler Miles, you'll see that he has 2 black straps going down from what it looks to be around his belt. So I decided to get a sheet of mock leather, cut it into 4 strips, glue those strips together, and then glue them on the belt. You don't have to use mock leather, you can use any material that you deem fit. And the dimensions are 1 inch across and 2.5 feet going down. I added this glow in the dark pink dimensional fabric paint onto the lights, but I didn't add it to the front ones. So comment down below, should I add it to the ones at the front?